Hey, good evening, 348th. I can't be here with you tonight. We're in our last night here at Fort Stewart, so I wanted to make sure that everybody had a message this evening. We only had 4 because NCODP afterwards, a lot of people had to split and leave. A lot of first sergeants and company commanders were having formations, so I wanted to make sure that you had a video of God's Word this weekend, since some of you didn't get a chance to enjoy service. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you Mark's revised version of the Bible so that I don't have to read all 20 verses, so we can make this a little bit shorter for YouTube. So I'm going to go through just a little bit of what's happening here. 1 Samuel chapter 17 is something we've all heard about. Even people who don't believe in the Bible have heard of a David and Goliath type battle. There was a soccer game not long ago. They said this is an Australian soccer game. They said this is a David and Goliath type battle. And so it's just interesting how everybody knows about this particular event that happens in the Bible. So what happens is, at the beginning of 1 Samuel 17, Goliath comes out, and he is a giant. He is literally a giant. Now, if I stand next to Special Sharon over here, he looks like a giant next to me. But he comes out, and he is literally a giant, and he challenges the armies of Israel by saying, "You're the servants of Saul." Saul was their king and their general at the time, and he said, "Won't you bring a man out to fight me? And if I win, you become our slaves. And if you win, we become your slaves." So there's a lot riding on this. And every day, morning and night, Goliath came out and challenged the armies of Israel, and nobody would come out. Not even Saul, their commander, would not go out and fight them. Now, I know Colonel Lowe would go out there, but Saul did not happen to go out there. So for 40 days and 40 nights this happened. Meanwhile, David, not old enough to be in the army, is back tending the sheep, and his dad says, "I want you to take some meat and cheese to the troops and to your brothers and make sure everybody's doing okay and come back and report to me." So David gets there, and Goliath challenges the army, and he challenges the army, and David says, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine to challenge the armies of Israel?" Now, I'm not going to describe circumcision for you, but let me say in Jewish culture, it's very important. Now, why would God do that? Why would God say circumcision was a mark for his people rather than, I don't know, say an earring or a tattoo? Why would it be circumcision? Well, I've known a lot of preachers that have fallen, probably you do too. Where do they usually fall? Usually it's in sexuality. And there's a mark on Hebrews that they know sexually they're supposed to belong to God for the rest of their life. So, and there are numerous other reasons that go along with that, but when a Hebrew man unclothed himself, you knew, whatever culture you were in, you're like, that guy is a Hebrew. And that meant he belonged to God. So David was saying he not only didn't belong to God, he disrespected God, and instead of saying the armies of Saul, David said, "How do you let this man defy the armies of Israel?" Meaning the armies of God. He was blatantly defying God, and David was outraged, saying, "How are you letting him do this for 40 days? How has nobody faced him?" So the first thing I want to say is, call your problem what your problem really is. Whatever that is. There's a reason why in Alcoholics Anonymous that we say, I would say, "Hey, I'm Mark Lowe and I'm an alcoholic." Instead of saying, "I'm Mark Lowe and I have a problem sometimes," you say, "I'm an alcoholic," because you defeat a problem by calling it what it is. Never, when I was in the artillery, did we take an objective by saying, "Guys, we're going to push on to the objective and pretend that it never existed. There's no enemy here at all. We're just going to push on to the objective, and those bullets aren't going to hit us." It's not a way to take an objective. So you have to call it what it is. The second thing he did was he said he went to the king. The king said, "You can't fight him. He's too big for you." David said, "Listen, I've defeated a bear. I've defeated a lion, and regardless of what happens, I know that the victory belongs to God and not to me." So David went out and he challenged him, knowing that the victory didn't belong to him, but it belonged to God. So what Saul did was Saul said, "Well, here, take my armor." So David puts it on, and it's oversized, just like if I were to put on, again, Special Sharon's equipment, it would be too long for me. If I put on the Sergeant Major's equipment, it would be too long for me. Probably too skinny too. So I would have to have my own equipment. David said, "This is not it. God's the one who protected me, not my equipment." So David said, "I can't do this." The world will always have a solution for you that doesn't belong to God. Sometimes when we're hurting and we're in a money crunch, we're tempted to use credit cards to get ourselves out of the situation. But a year down the road, when your credit card's maxed out, you don't have anything left, Now what's the deal? Wouldn't you have rather have prayed about that and figured out what God had as a solution for that problem? The world always has a solution that's not always God's solution for the problem. So David went on, and he ends up, the king says, go ahead and go face Goliath. So he heads out there to face Goliath, and he heads out there with merely a staff and his sling. Here's a boy not old enough to be in the army, probably 18, 19 years old. He's got a sling and a staff against a 6 to 9 foot giant. And I've stood next to a giant. There was a guy, I'm pretty sure he was on the UGA basketball team. He was in Athens, and I told my kids, I said, I got to go stand next to him just to see a comparison. So I went up and I said, hey, how are you doing? He said, I'm doing all right. I said, how's the weather up there? He said, probably the same as down there. So, but he was an imposing guy. He was a giant. He was I won't say terrifying, but it would have been imposing for me to go against him. So this man is a giant who's got a spearhead that weighs 15 pounds. That's a big guy. And he gets up there, and Goliath was mad, and he said, how dare you send this little boy to me? Send me a man. He said, you come at me with sticks and rocks? And David said, it's not my battle, it's God's battle, and he's tired of you disrespecting him, and today you're going down. Again, that's the Mark's Revised Version. So as you get on up there to verse 50, David realized the battle wasn't his own, but it belonged to God. True leadership, whether it be military or civilian, once you realize that the battle does not belong to you, the battle belongs to God, and you realize that the world's solution to a situation is not what's going to get you out of it, but only God's solution is going to get you out of it, and you call the problem what it is. Whether it's maybe it's something financial and you've not planned well, or maybe it's something that's going to happen, maybe it's something that you're doing in your personal life, but to defeat that giant, you're going to have to recognize what it is, not take the world solution, and realize that the winning is going to come from the Lord and not from your own personal, the way you're going to do, or living life good, or hoping that you can just get better, but to let God handle the battle for you. Not that David didn't plan, not that he didn't pick up 5 stones, not that he wasn't skilled, but David realized it wasn't his skill that was going to win the battle, but it was giving the battle over to the Lord. That, 348, is what you can take to the bank. So, hope you all have an awesome AT, have an awesome time tomorrow, praying for all of you in your convoys, and God bless. We'll see y'all soon.